Hi, Jake Porter and Zach Luther back with a mentor meeting for
Hi.
module 2.3. It's I've got this kid artifact, and what this one was is I had to pick one of they had like sample kids you could pick from, and they built like a profile for them.
Cool.
And so we go through the one I chose. Her name is Sophia, ironically, not our Sophia, but she's a 10-year-old fourth grade girl with ADHD. And essentially what I had to do was build like supports
Yeah.
and kind of like come up with not quite a behavior plan yet, but
Sure.
just like classroom support. So like
Gotcha.
my thing that I said was like just try to eliminate distractions,
Yeah.
try to maybe isolate her if that's what we need to do, or
Hmm.
one-on-one with somebody so that she can not, be all over the place.
Right. Um,
Uh,
when you say isolate, you mean just like her seating is
yeah.
in a space.
Yeah, with your kids,
Okay.
sometimes we'll put them in the back of the room with me or something where they're facing
Yeah.
away from everybody else. Um, so
Yes.
my recommendation would be just like I said, get her maybe a dedicated TA,
Hmm.
or they mentioned that she's super social, so maybe leverage that. Like, if you want this time to be social, we need this time to be work time.
Right. Right.
So she's got
Yeah. Like I think what you're saying there is because she probably can't stay focused for X amount of time,
Mhm.
right? And that with her disability, it's probably different, whether it's 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, right? To set like a kind of set time to where she can unwind
Yeah,
a little bit. Yes.
like
Yes.
intermittent breaks and things like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
They wanted me to use like UDL strategies,
Yeah.
designing multiple means of engagement, things like that. First one I did was sustaining effort and persistence, which is pretty much what I already talked about,
Hmm.
because that's what's worked the best for me personally when I have kids that struggle to pay attention, just constantly redirecting them.
Yeah. Reprompting, redirecting, of
Mhm.
course.
And the second one I chose was multiple means of representation, perception. And it talks about there's multiple ways to perceive information, right? Like
Hmm.
if I can get her paperwork rather than computer work, or things like that,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe individualized instruction. Um, some accommodations to support Sophia would be like preferential seating,
100%.
yeah, visual reminders. I did one yesterday, an assignment where the guy he printed a card with the rules on it,
Yeah.
and he put it on this kid's desk, right? And every time he had to redirect him, he would point at the card and be like, "Remember the rules, Jake." And then he would
Mhm.
look at it, and it would like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. And that proactive strategy of, hey, remember, let's go over the expectations. Of course,
Yeah,
that's always probably a good thing to do. Another one that you could probably add on there is because of maybe some more unfocused time in comparison is if she does do well and she is motivated, she might take a little longer to get things done come test time.
yeah,
So you might want to look at extended time. That kind of depends on her test scores and kind of documenting how long she takes on tests and quizzes and compared to like her assignments.
right. And the last thing here, instructional strategy. So my recommendation for that was to be like chunking the work up and allow
Uh-huh.
opportunities for breaks, like we already kind of discussed.
Yeah.
Give her opportunities to talk about everything that's going on in her brain, and like we have kids, they want to talk about everything under the sun that's not schoolwork. So we'll do
Right.
this, and then we can talk about what you want to talk about.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I like that. Um, and depending on the class, if there's she might perform better activity based or some type of like kinesthetic learning rather than, you know, someone with OHI. You just give them like extensive note taking, they'll probably wander,
Yeah.
So it just kind of depends on the class and what you can really do.
Yeah. That same case study I was doing yesterday, that was why the card was necessary, is because individual work, like I think he called it seat work.
Oh,
That was when the kid was struggling, is when they would be left alone to do it on independently. They would look out the window or look at posters or whatever and, struggle to do the individual work.
right,
Yeah.
right. So maybe sometimes like some type of peer work, group work to kind of keep them engaged, but they know their roles and responsibilities, kind of what to do. I know that's not easy. It really depends on the student, but sometimes with OHI, you kind of want to avoid like where they have to do work all by themselves.
Hmm.
They could struggle with that.
Yeah. Well, how do you, I can tie that into the mentor questions. How do you, when you have a kid that's particularly difficult in that way,
Yeah.
you have a whole classroom full of kids, like I've been struggling with that. How do I balance that?
I think it's like I say that group work, but I think it's like a dosage of where maybe the whole class is involved, but they're individually trying to learn and figure it out. So that OHI student or a couple OHI students, like they're not getting the work from other people to make it easy for them.
Hmm.
But it's definitely in an environment where they aren't getting super, it's not an activity that just goes head down, boredom, or easily kind of wander off task. So like just like the extensive note taking, or
Yeah.
like if you have to read an article or something like that, some type of like activity or highlighting or something that keeps them somewhat active in the activity. That's probably the best way I could probably describe it. In like the opposite is like in a full group setting, like if you put like a table of four together, they're supposed to work. Well, that can lead to off-task behavior as well,
Yeah.
which is something else you kind of want to avoid.
There's some times where like our eighth graders, like I can trust some of them to be responsible and I can say, okay, I'm going to put the eighth graders here. They're going to work together and they'll do the thing. And then I'm going to go find the kids who are struggling and try to, give them more attention.
Right. It's a great strategy, right? But then at the same time, it's like it's important that like a lot of students kind of learn and look at you when you're not directly talking to them and you're working with other students. So if you see that kid off task, so to say, you could be positive to the prompting the other students around for staying on task
Yeah.
and working so hard. But that kind of gets into OHI with a little bit of frustrations with work,
Yeah.
and especially like emotional disturbed kids, is like make to like kind of prompt them head on could lead to different frustrations and situations rather than you're positively prompting everyone else
Hmm.
on how good a job they're doing around the room staying on task.
That's something I could work on. The positive behavioral, what it's called. It's like the 5-to-1 ratio, you know what I'm
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Five positives to one negative,
Right,
because
right.
you don't always like notice the positives all the time.
Of
You're looking
course.
for the negatives.
Of course. And kids are smart these days. They're always looking to see what you're doing with the other students as well.
Hmm.
Yeah, so good.
Cool.
No, any other questions? Good. All right.